Tonight on the all-night drive-in picture show.
When I was in the States, I often came across the Mafia and the 14K. I just used my hands. That was enough. Let those punks try it on with me.
You don't know them. They're the Godfather's private bodyguard. They're hard-nosed bastards. One's James Bond and the other's Clint Eastwood.
Look, I don't care who they are. Those pansy punks don't scare me none at all.
And now, here are your projectionists. Now they know how to pronounce genre. Ryan Mason and Charles Wood.
Welcome to the all-night drive-in picture show. My name is Ryan. That's Charles.
Hey, neighbor. They're honking horns out there, dude. We got to get started. Attention patrons. The movies discussed on this podcast will be spoiled from start to finish. If you wish to experience these cinematic gems visually, please do so before continuing with this episode. We will be right here when you return. Thank you and have a pleasant evening.
And now, please enjoy our featured presentation.
Welcome to hell, where dirty sex and copyright infringements abound. Oh, and did we mention Bruce Lee has to fight his way out of it? This is The Dragon Lives Again.
Or The Deadly Hands of Kung Fu.
We open on a red background with a title that reads,
"This film is dedicated to the millions who love Bruce Lee."
Then the background becomes a room, and we launch into a credit sequence with a series of fight scenes in this red room, complete with some costume changes. A cocky Bruce Lee, played by Bruce Leong, saunters in from the right side of the screen. He's got his jacket thrown over his shoulder, huge sunglasses, a red tank top, and some amazing bell-bottoms. And James Bond, played by Alexander Grant, walks in from the left side of the frame, revolver in hand. Bond fires a shot at Bruce, but the dragon throws up a jump kick to avoid it. Apparently, Bond only had one round in the gun because he throws it away. The two men approach each other and take fighting stances, but then Bond stops everything and shakes hands with Bruce. Interesting. Then we cut to another fight where Bruce, now dressed in his iconic Big Boss costume, takes on what will come to be known as zombies. But really, they're just a bunch of flailing fellas in skeleton costumes. Seriously, these guys look like they're mailing it in for trick-or-treating. Bruce beats the holy piss out of these Halloween henchmen for a few seconds, and then we see the Godfather. Yes, supposedly that Godfather, played by Shen Il-lung, as he also kicks some skeletal zombie ass while Italian restaurant music plays in the background. Marlon Brando ain't got shit on this Godfather. Then it's on to Zatuichi, the blind swordsman, played by Wong Kar-hung, as he swings his blade against Bruce's nunchucks. They get their weapons locked up, and Bruce tickles Zatuichi. Yes, he tickles the swordsman.
There's going to be a lot of tickling of the swordsman in this movie.
Quite a lot of swordplay, yes. Then Bruce, now dressed as Kato from the Green Hornet, faces off with the Man with No Name, played by Kawa. The man is basically a knockoff of Clint Eastwood from his spaghetti western films, and he is actually referred to as Clint Eastwood for the rest of the movie. Clint fires his pistol at Bruce, but the little dragon rolls under the shot and throws a dart into the gun barrel, jamming it. Clint pulls like hell to get that dart out, and when he does, he accidentally shoots himself in the foot. The cowboy dances around because somehow the tail of his poncho has caught fire. Oh, God, here we go. Cut to Dracula and the Exorcist. Yes, a tux, cape, medallion Dracula with green skin, rabbit fangs, and a priest in a long robe as they march toward Bruce from either side of the frame. Dracula is played by Shi Chong, but the Exorcist role is not attributed to any of the cast listed on IMDb, so we do not know that actor's name. So from here on out, if the role is attributed to an actor on IMDb or elsewhere, we will note it. If not, we'll just give you the character's name and move on. Dig?
Dig.
Anyway, when Dracula and the Exorcist reach Bruce, he kneels and does a death touch finger diddle on their globes. He stands and twists their grapes a little more and then disappears. As these poor dopes look around, Bruce reappears behind the Exorcist and kicks the priest in the mush. Next, Bruce combats Zhang Kuei. Bruce has nunchucks while Zhang has a sword. They go back and forth, ending up with Bruce hitting Zhang in the gut. Finally, Bruce is once again surrounded by zombie skeletons. But this time, he's whooping their bony asses with nunchucks, and thus ends the credits. Woo!
So the satire thing I could understand. But right up front, man, that first theme song that they use at the beginning of the movie with him and James Bond, the first part of it is the Enter the Dragon theme, the recording that was used in Enter the Dragon. I mean, like, these guys don't give a shit about copyright. Then they do like a James Bond theme to mash it up, but the James Bond theme you can tell was recorded later. It wasn't an original theme, but that Enter the Dragon theme is, and they use that theme a couple times throughout the movie, and I'm just like, damn, talk about globes. Shit.
I'm surprised when the Eastwood character shows up that they didn't play the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly theme.
I know. I mean, the Italians probably wouldn't have given a shit about it. But the other thing about this opening sequence, too, the guy who plays James Bond, Alexander Grant, there are a couple of interesting credits in this movie. One is Alexander Grant. He is billed as Alexander Grant, champion boxer of Europe. I could find no evidence that he was actually a boxer, but I don't know exactly where to look on the internet to find a list of European boxers of yore.
One thing to point out about that, too, is he's playing James Bond, and this guy is not even remotely handsome or looks like anyone that would play James Bond.
He's got big-ass sideburns.
Thinning hairline and
He is one of only two actors in this movie that was actually in an authentic Bruce Lee movie. So he had uncredited roles in Way of the Dragon as a thug and then Fist of Fury as a guard. The only other person in the movie that actually had a role in an actual Bruce Lee movie is Shi Chong, the guy who plays Dracula, was actually the eulogist in Fist of Fury. So these guys have the bona fides. The rest of these people are just, they're interlopers. But
it's good that the guy that plays Dracula didn't have fight scenes in Fist of Fury, because his fight scenes here are top notch.
I love how he and the Exorcist march towards Bruce with their hands straight up over their heads, and then their fingers pointed perpendicular. They're just like walking towards him really slowly.
Right.
Look like a monster out of a Scooby-Doo cartoon or something.
Yeah.
And he's like, tickle, tickle, tickle.
I know. So stupid. He tickles Zatuichi under the armpits, folks. I mean,
and he giggles. I like that. He giggles. He makes, you know what? I think he and Zatuichi have a very special relationship, because he makes Zatuichi giggle one other time, I think, in this movie when he helps him surf. So,
yeah. In a royal chamber, Bruce Lee lies dead on the table in the middle of the room. We can see that he's wearing his familiar black kung fu gear, but he's half covered by a white sheet. And Bruce's little dragon is still up in a fighting stance, making a tent from the sheet. The man has an erection, it would seem, and it's a whopper. Bruce is also surrounded by guards who have spears in either red robes or brown garb. Oh, and 2 of them are wearing animal masks. And these aren't cool ceremonial masks. No, they look more like your cousin Bart decided to recreate Disney World in his backyard. They're big, full, furry-headed costume mask with one's a horse, one's a bull. Yeah, they're top shelf.
They have to fight with spears in these things.
They do. And they do it very poorly.
Yeah. I don't think the masks have anything to do with that.
Yeah, I don't think so either. The royal bailiff, played by Shi-Hu, announces to the chamber that the king is coming. The king of the underworld does indeed arrive to great fanfare and bowing subjects. The king takes Bruce's file and reads it with a magnifying glass. Made in Hong Kong, it says. It's like they bought him at a dollar store.
I love that it says it both in Chinese and English.
Right.
And that's like one of the last pieces of paper in this movie that has an English on it for the rest of the movie, even though you're supposed to be able to read it. So,
all right. It'd be funny if the English piece of it looked like a rubber stamp.
Yeah, like his passport. Bong.
Right. The king is both dismayed and maybe a little impressed by Bruce's still alert crotch soldier. He tells the bailiff to go check it out.
Yeah. Just go check that out, buddy.
From a hiding place at the other end of the chamber, the queen, played by Lily Fu Lee, and a concubine, played by Ming Hu, spy on the proceedings. They whisper to each other as the opening bars of the Carl Douglas Party classic Kung Fu Fighting begins to play. Then they talk about the hunk on the slab.
Hey, are you sure it's Bruce Lee? Doesn't look like him. It so happens when a person dies, their face and their body undergo a change. When he was alive, all the girls were after him. They just ate him up. Oh, help me.
It's weird that just like the first few bars of Kung Fu Fighting play.
Yeah, I know. It was just the whoa part, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's so weird. They're like panning up Bruce's body, of course, massive erection there, and they go past towards his face. You know.
Yeah.
Wow.
The funny thing is too, when we watch the trailer to this movie, they show Bruce laying on the slab with the erection, and they show it kind of quickly. But I'm like, did Bruce have a heart on there? Was Bruce sporting a boner? Well,
yeah.
What the hell?
He was dead, but his dick was still working forms. Still.
I think it had the rigor mortis.
Oh, God.
The bailiff does a bizarre wiggle walk to Bruce and reaches under the sheet while everyone else waits with bated breath. He pulls out a pair of nunchucks. He clearly doesn't. Yeah, he clearly does not know what they are and swings them a couple of times and hits himself in the head, slapstick style.
Yeah, that's the first of a lot of slapstick.
A lot of slapstick. The king gives a still unconscious Bruce 9 kinds of hell for bringing a weapon into the underworld. He tells the horse, the bull, and the 2 other lunkheads to beat up Bruce. They hit the body with what looks like canoe oars, but the oars break, and then Bruce finally awakens, grabbing his crotch and asking for his weapon. The king and the dragon talk about what's what.
Oh, who's stolen my weapon? Huh? Where's it gone? Huh. Who the hell are you?
How dare you get down on your knees before me? Or do you want to die already?
Huh? Is there something wrong with you? You're weird. I'm gonna die, you're gonna die.
Don't you realize who I am? How dare you be rude to me?
I know who you are, a rat.
How dare you say that? Let me inform you, Pipsqueak. I am the king of the underworld.
Huh? The underworld? Huh.
If you continue to misbehave, I'd be delighted to send you to hell forever.
You're a fool. A stupid fool. How did you become king?
That's really quite simple. Do you see that enormous pillar over there?
The king points to a large carved totem.
What's so great about it?
If someone gives me trouble, I give the pillar a shake, which in turn triggers off an earthquake. If I really wanted to, I could destroy the whole face of the planet.
Okay, you beat me on that one. You're the boss.
You're right. You should learn to appreciate my power.
The king walks over to the pillar and shakes it. The whole room quakes.
Majesty, See? Now you see how powerful I am.
Well, in that case, I guess I'm gonna have to call it quits. But do me one favor. You can give me back my weapon. I'm dead without it.
The bailiff approaches the king with the nunchucks.
Hey, Your Majesty, I suggest that you give him...
Bruce Lee, you're welcome. Here's your weapon.
So what stuck out to you in this scene?
Well, there was the raging boner.
I love the bailiff's sashaying walk when he's told to go check out the boner. He goes kind of sashaying down the stairs like, woo-hoo-hoo, you know? Like,
yeah. Every time they show this bailiff guy, too, man, he is super animated.
He is. And his headdress makes it all the more obvious because he's got these two almost like aces kind of sticking out from his head. And I figured out, researching some of the characters in this movie, that Zhang Kui, who comes up towards the very end of this movie, that's actually an outfit that he's depicted in paintings because he's a folkloric character, which I didn't know about. I thought it was just some thing that they had just put together for this movie, but it wasn't. It's based on a real costume.
Huh.
What was up with the bug climbing around Bruce's pole? What was up with that? It was just there for a second.
I don't know. Wasn't that right after they beat him with the oars, too? The bug was on there? Is that when and that's what woke him up, basically?
The oars kind of woke him up. I think the bug was...
No, because they removed the nunchucks before the oars.
Right.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep stuff straight because there are so many quick little shots in this movie that if you're thinking back on it, it's almost hard to put them in order because even the little shots can be so outrageous that you're just like, what is happening?
It's also kind of interesting trying to follow along because the story is so ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. It is. Trying to get your arms around the story, especially to cover it like we do, is so hard because you kind of have to explain all these little pieces so that people can actually see in their minds what this looks like. And the thing that makes it even doubly hard is that the prints for this movie are not good. And I don't know what aspect ratio they were supposed to be in, but they're shot as though they were shot on a video camera looking at a television and then trying to kind of like pan around every once in a while to see, you know, all the stuff.
Yeah.
So that makes it doubly hard to kind of figure out what the hell is going on.
There was one scene where one person was on the left side of the screen, another person was on the right, but because of the framing, you couldn't even see them at all. You could just hear them talking to each other.
I know. I think that happens a couple times in the movie, and I'm just like, I'm not even sure who's in this scene right now. We'll just have to wait a second and see who comes in, you know. What about when Bruce is talking to the king and they're going back and forth, and he shakes his fist at him, but it's a got your nose fist with his thumb punching through. I got your nose, you bastard. You know?
I've got the royal nose. Bruce goes to a restaurant. He can't read the menu, so he tells the waiter, played by Pak Kwang-ho, to bring him the special. The waiter says he'll bring Bruce some special treats, all right, but he has to eat them in a special way. Suck them in, then chew them up, and spit them out. Bruce is like, yeah, that's disgusting. At this point, I'd like to point out that it sounds like Mo Howard was hired to do the overdubbing for Leong. Just, hey, Buster. All right, Buster, give me the special.
There are multiple instances in this movie where the overdubbing is like, you bastards. And that takes me right back to my childhood because I always remember that from Kung Fu movies.
Yeah. Also, the Foley work on the character's footsteps sound like horse hooves. It's like
almost no matter where they are. Like, it doesn't matter if they're not. They could be on wood, on cement, on rock. It's always the same, pretty much.
There are a lot of scenes that end up in a desert unexplicably, and you get those same footsteps. Even out on sand.
Yeah. Yeah.
So terrible. At another table, Popeye the Sailor Man, played by Eric Sung, and Kwai Chang Caine play a drinking game that resembles rock, paper, scissors, and Popeye is losing. Now, when we're talking about Kwai Chang Caine here, we're talking about the main character in the Kung Fu TV series from the early 70s, as in...
Basically, I'm just gonna walk the earth. What you mean, walk the earth? Like Caine in Kung Fu. Walk from place to place, meet people, get in adventures.
Popeye and Caine make noise until Zatuichi, the blind swordsman, turns around from his table and tells him to pipe down. They decide to skedaddle, and on the way out, Caine points out Bruce Lee. Then they leave.
It's interesting that Caine is the one to recognize Bruce and point him out, because at this time, there probably still would have been some controversy about the creation of the Kung Fu TV series, because in her biography, Linda Lee actually said that Bruce had created Kung Fu and then the studio took it away from him. But this biographer, I think his name is Michael Polly. I think he had a book come out a couple of years ago about Bruce Lee. And he said that if you look at it, they didn't actually steal it from him, that the script was written somewhere else. And Bruce did have another show called The Warrior that was very similar, but his main character was full Chinese, whereas Caine in Kung Fu was half Chinese, half white. And really the way Polly kind of set it up, if anything, Bruce, after auditioning for the role, he might have actually used some of the stuff, whether consciously or unconsciously, in his story. So it might have actually been the other way around. But Bruce did get passed over for the part in Kung Fu. But one of the reasons he got passed over was because reportedly some unnamed ABC executive, this fucking genius, said, we can't make a star out of a 5'6" Chinese actor. So that man is still unnamed. And I have a Bruce Lee box set in there now. Yeah. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, okay. Classic story. Racism, trying to deprive us of good things. Okay.
Zatuichi smashes a buzzing fly against his forehead and then puts the bug into his noodles. Then he catches another with his chopsticks. Then he gets an idea. He yells to the waiter that the food sucks and he's going to basically call the health patrol on the joint. The waiter gives him the meal for free. On his way out, Zatuichi bumps into Bruce's table. He picks up the nunchucks. He strokes them and feels them and then hands them back apologetic. Zatuichi makes his way to the door, but then abruptly grabs 3 chopsticks and hurls them at Bruce. They pierce the dragon's nunchucks. Bruce flips the nunchucks and the chopsticks fly right back at Zatuichi, sticking in the door right next to his head. The old man leaves. The waiter jumps Bruce's case for antagonizing the Chinatown triad. Bruce tells him to shut his hole and get the food. Zatuichi returns with Clint Eastwood, James Bond, and a host of skeleton zombies. Bruce tries to de-escalate shit, but the triad guys ain't having it. Zatuichi and the skeleton zombies attack. Bruce kung fu's the piss out of these fuckers until the skeleton zombies come in for the real thing. A group hug. Then he gets woozy and has flashes of being circled by women in the red room from the beginning. And he falls to the floor as Clint, Bond, Zatuichi, and the skeleton zombies yuck it up. Then they leave him laying. Is that ever really explained? Why this happens?
They're supernatural, dude. They're skeleton zombies. What do you want from me?
I'm just talking about how he's fighting and all of a sudden he's like, ooh.
Well, yeah.
Ladies circling me.
The ladies circling him never really comes up again. I mean, they kind of talk about it later on, but in a different way. Not that specific scene, but they kind of talk about it in a larger sense here soon. But different groups of beings try this on him to varying degrees of success. But I don't know. I should probably explain to you for people who don't know. Zatuichi was actually a character who was in a series of Japanese films. And in all, there were something like 26 films from 1962 to 1989. And then there were 4 seasons on television, which was about 100 episodes from 1974 to 1979. Just so people have a context that they're really kind of grabbing characters from all over the world and putting them into this film.
Wato, played by Su Shi-yen, and his 2 nurses come into the restaurant and help Bruce up. Wa had once been a doctor to the king in the real world, and he was sent here for his sins to care for the poor and the weak. Later at Wa's office, the good doctor says goodbye to a newly healthy patient, which is an actual medical school skeleton that talks. Bruce sits resting. He thanks Wa for saving him from the fires of hell. Wa says it ain't no thing, and the nurse brings him some medicine to drink. Wa asks a favor of Bruce, slow down and don't, I don't know, fight too many skele-zombies or have the dirty sex with too many women. Who knows, man. The nurse chimes in and says a man who is as well endowed as Bruce is bound to be desired by the ladies. But Bruce basically looks right into the camera with a confession.
That's enough. It seemed like I had everything licked. Except for just one thing. My Achilles heel. Right. I used to play around just too much. I'm sorry, Linda.
Linda? Who's this Linda?
Linda was my wife.
Which begs the question, is Bruce a well-endowed man? Was that something he was known for?
I have no idea.
That seems to be a big focus in this movie, is his pecker. I mean,
I know.
How big is this log anyway,
He did have a reputation, I think, for being a bit of a ladies' man, but I don't know. That stuff is kind of like Wild West gunfighters, body counts. You never quite know what's real and what's not. So
Right.
I have no idea.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
It could be that he was entirely faithful to his wife, but somehow I doubt that. But
Yeah. Bruce snaps back to the present and asks Wa if there's a chance that he can get back to Earth. Wa says he can do a lot of shit, but he can't do that.
He's like the meatloaf of this movie.
I'll do anything for you, Bruce, but I won't do that.
What the hell was going on with that confession? He's like looks in the camera and says, "I'm sorry, Linda. I fucked around too much. I was so confused." He just like jumped right out and said that. It's weird how in this movie, every once in a while, they just like come out with these expositional biographical passages about him. Like in the first scene, the bailiff says, well, he was born in Hong Kong, he went to Seattle, and then he died, and he came here. And it's like, what? Do you have his bill of lading? Like, what are you doing? What are you talking about? And then, here you have this, and I think later on there's something else where when the queen and the concubine are talking about him at some point, they talk about what a great big movie star he was and how the ladies all loved him. And he taught all these different people like James Coburn and Steve McQueen and Charles. I don't know if he ever taught Charles Bronson, but it's like, and I'm just like, you're talking about this while you're naked in a pool. Like, what's happening here?
And what kind of a set of stones does it take to have a fictional Bruce Lee apologize to the real Bruce Lee's wife about fooling around too?
Now, I can guarantee she never saw this movie.
I'm sure she didn't. But let's assume she did.
Because it's more fun if we assume that she did.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's assume she did, and she's like, "You're apologizing for my dead husband with a fictional character." It's just that's a really weird thing to do in a movie.
And you have Popeye in this movie, is that right? He's making this apology with Popeye and Dracula.
That's right.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Oh, James Bond. You say James Bond. No kidding.
Yeah, let's not forget The Exorcist, too. The Exorcist.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I imagine I might sound a little crazed and frustrated by this movie. Mm-hmm. I absolutely love this movie. I'm in love with this movie because anything can happen.
Right.
Anything.
And it kind of does.
It just... I can't imagine what the deleted scenes look like.
Oh, God,
I would have loved to have seen the deleted scenes.
I bet the deleted scenes could be their own movie. At the Triad's lair, it's quick stripper night as a barely covered dancer struts into a cave-ish room populated with the skeleton zombies at the back of the room, and Clint Eastwood, the exorcist Emmanuel, played by Jenny, the Emmanuel of Northern Europe, the Godfather, and James Bond sitting on a sofa in 2 chairs. I just said that line. The dancer makes a beeline for Bond. She leans over and kicks back a couple of times and then just struts back out of the room. Okay? Hey, she's hot, guys. See ya. Everybody laughs, and Bond might have blue balls. I don't know. She wasn't there long enough for him to really get blue balls, I don't think. But woo. The Godfather makes a toast and says he hopes that the exorcist becomes the king of the underworld soon.
Me too. I want that for him too.
I want the young priest to be the king of the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Emmanuel asks if the exorcist will remember her when he becomes king. He's like, damn right, baby. Meanwhile, Clint's got itchy spurs. He wonders why they have to wait around so long. Zatuichi says they'll move when they're ready. The exorcist says the king is a moron and he wants him dead. But he admits that he is afraid of Bruce Lee. Clint says Bruce ain't nothing. Plus they got Dracula and all his zombies. I'm not afraid of Bruce Lee. I've got Dracula and all of his zombies. Fuck that guy.
Let's say it one more time, like for the cheap seats. Clint Eastwood says that Bruce Lee will be no problem to deal with because they also have Dracula and his zombies to help them.
That's right. That's right. Mm-hmm.
What the fuck? What the fuck? I mean, I just like drink in this movie when I watch it.
Oh my God. The Godfather says that he'll take care of everything and tells them to drink more.
Of course. I got it.
Oh, man.
Okay, so before we go on, Emmanuel, as you said, played by Jenny, the Emmanuel of Northern Europe, apparently. Yeah. This is her one and only credit. She doesn't have a last name, so who could track her down?
Right.
But
I'm looking for Jenny. Jenny who? Yes.
Yes. Just tell me all the Jennies in your town, and I'll just go door to door.
Yeah.
So Emmanuel was a character from a series of films that the first of which that was adapted from a late 50s novel that was about a French diplomat's wife who decides to strike out on her own for kind of like a journey through the different kinds of sex that she could have.
Yeah.
And overall, there were 42 films with that character in them. Most of the movies at the beginning were French. I think they were all French up until, I want to say, the 80s or 90s. And then they came over to the USA. I mean, the movies were softcore pornography.
Yeah.
You know, they were better shot versions of some of the sex scenes in this movie. You know, probably a bit more explicit, I guess, than some of the sex scenes in this movie. But yeah, Jenny is the Emmanuel of Northern Europe. I don't know where Northern Europe, where that is.
Yeah.
But good for Jenny, right? Yeah. I mean.
So, based on this, are we to assume that there are regional Emmanuels?
I would say so. I don't know. I don't even know how you could not think that, right? That makes perfect sense.
My name is Lisa, and I'm the Emmanuel from the Midwestern United States.
What would the contest to become the regional Emmanuel even look like? I don't. That could not be shown on television, right?
Oh, no.
That would have to be pay-per-view. Sponsored by the Spice Channel.
All right.
Bob's Peep and Squeak.
Peep and Squeak.
Oh, man.
Oh, God.
We're never going to get through this movie.
I know. Bruce is playing a Pai Gow game. The dealer is cheating, but Bruce still wins. Then he tells the other men to stop betting because when they were in the other world, they were cheated out of all their money gambling. Bruce grabs his winnings and starts distributing it amongst the group. The men take their money and leave, all except the one-armed swordsman, played by Chong Li. Bruce says that One Arm has to follow him to get his money. Before we get there, at the end of the movie, when One Arm is helping him fight, doesn't he have both arms? The dealer warns Bruce that the king of the underworld owns the gambling parlor, but Bruce doesn't give a shit. The dragon is on a holy crusade. As Bruce and One Arm leave the parlor, the dealer yells out to some thugs in the street to attack them. The two men beat them down in quick fashion. Bruce runs into Popeye and Kane, who are ordering food from One Arm's sister at her shop. When she sees One Arm, the sister grabs him and demands the money that he owes her. Bruce hands her the Pai Gow money and encourages One Arm to lend his sister a hand at her shop. Yeah, amputee humor.
That's not funny.
No, it's not funny, man. Then we go to the main city street where Bruce is teaching a group of citizens, including Popeye and Kane, Kung Fu. Again, he's teaching Kane from Kung Fu, Kung Fu.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't forget Popeye.
Yeah.
Never, ever forget Popeye.
You never forget Popeye, no. Mm-mm. He tells Watteau that as long as they fight together, those bastards won't dare tangle with us. I mean, I'm guessing that means the Godfather's thugs, but...
He's told that the Pai Gow parlor is owned by the king of the underworld.
Mm-hmm.
But here I don't know if he's talking about the king of the underworld's thugs or the Godfather. I don't know.
Who knows?
I don't care. Ultimately, it doesn't matter.
Oh, it really doesn't matter in this movie at all, no. No.
Now that we're thinking about it, it'd be nice to know, but otherwise it doesn't matter.
Nah. Who needs a story? Oh, well, now it's time to get naked. We're back at the king's palace, and 4 of his wives are splashing and bathing in a small pool. One of the concubines asks the queen about Bruce.
Madam, is this Bruce Lee really so expert at Kung Fu? Of course. According to reports I've heard, he's a Kung Fu genius, an international athlete, and a teacher. Steve McQueen was a pupil, and James Coburn, and Charles Bronson, you name it, they were his students. Then he must be a wealthy man, huh? Oh, you're right. Oh, but not quite as rich as you are. Oh, no, you're putting me on. Listen, I've heard he's meant to be very generous to his girlfriends. I'm just crazy about him. What do you wish? I wish I could try him out for size. Everyone said I don't believe it. I guess I better level with you. I can't tell you how crazy I am. I'm just crazy all over about that man. No, dear. Don't make like you're a cold fish. How much you pay, huh, if you could have him?
The king is coming!
What bad timing, just when we were chatting. And look what he's got in mind, the dirty old man.
Then the king arrives, and all of his wives are like, this dirty old bastard. He leers at them like Pee Wee Herman at the porno and asks them if they're talking about Bruce, and they deny it. He basically says that he wouldn't blame them because his scepter hasn't really been available for shining recently. He just hasn't felt up to engaging in royal romps. He seems to weaken a bit, and then the water suddenly disappears from the pool, fully exposing the women. The king is pissed, and he tells a servant to check this out and get the water running again.
That just never comes back.
Nah.
I don't know. On further examination, it would have been nice to know. Oh, well.
Did Bruce Lee turn off the water? No.
Did you not pay the water bill again, you bastard?
Was it The Exorcist? Could be. Who knows?
It might have been Popeye. You don't know.
You don't know. We see villagers in the street running from a couple of mugging cops, one plump and one skinny. They saunter over to a fruit stand where the plump cop, played by Yat Fan Lao, grabs a piece of fruit and starts to eat it, but one-armed sister slaps it out of his hand, telling him to pay for it. He says hitting a police officer is an offense and starts to hit her with his baton, but the skinny cop stops him and says that she beats him because she loves him. The plump cop agrees and gropes the sister. Popeye and Kane intervene. The cops demand their bribes, but Kane says they aren't going to pay anymore. What follows is an awkward comedic fight in which Popeye pulls off the plump cop's toupee and Kane tickles the skinny cop's nose with grass to make him sneeze.
Hey, look, anytime Popeye comes up, I'm just going to start laughing.
That's all you can do. That's all you can do. A crowd gathers and cheers, including Bruce. The plump cop asks Bruce who gave him the authority to run the gymnasium in the street. Bruce says that street is where they live their lives and the cops better never come back.
It's like a perfect justification.
Yeah.
You have a permit? No, this is where we live our lives. Don't come back.
So we're only that easy.
Yeah.
Zatuichi stumbles up on the scene and challenges Bruce, Popeye, and Kane to a fight, one at a time.
I'll fight you bastards, but only one at a time.
That's right.
Because everybody knows nobody waits their turns in group fights in a kung fu movie.
That's right. Exactly.
Everybody just piles on. Nobody waits their turns and does crazy awkward forms in the background.
It's like, okay, my turn.
Tag me in. Tag me in.
The blind man says that if he loses, he'll stay away from the area forever. Bruce dismisses Popeye and Kane and says he'll take on Zatuichi. The two men fight over a bridge, and then they are suddenly in a desert canyon. After a tussle, Bruce disarms Zatuichi. The blind man's sword is just outside of the fighting area. What follows is a hand-to-hand combat scene in which they call out their styles as they change them. That is a device that is used in quite a few kung fu movies of that era. But let's talk about these styles for a second.
So let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Which print of this movie did you watch?
The second one that you gave me.
Okay, so there's a difference between the two prints.
Oh, really?
In a couple of spots, yeah. And this is the biggest one, I think. So I watched both prints of the movies in, back-to-back viewings.
You watched this twice in a row?
Well, I watched it 3 times, I guess, or 4 times.
Oh, my God. You glutton for punishment.
I don't love this movie, Ryan Mason. I'm in love with it.
Okay.
So like you said, they call out their styles, but in this movie, like Bruce's audio is pretty clear, right? He just calls out the names of his movies.
Right.
Pretty fucking lazy if you ask me, but okay, whatever. He's the star of the movie. He can get away with it.
Sure.
But Zatuichi, it's a little less clear. His audio's just muddier. So in the print that you watched, you just have to depend on his audio.
Right.
Like you can't really, and a lot of it you can't hear. In the other print, they actually have text in Chinese and English that comes up on the screen telling you what they're calling out. Huh. So a lot of this part of the fight scene has text over it,
yeah,
while they're fighting. And so I want to go through Zatuichi's fight calls.
Okay.
Really fast.
Please.
Okay. So his first style call, audio-wise, he said, blind man leads the way. Mm-hmm. Pointing forward, with his fingers, going at Bruce. That makes sense, right?
Sure, yeah.
The text for that in the other print says, blind man finds way. That's, that makes sense. I mean, it's not bad. It's fairly close, but it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
His second call, I couldn't hear. No matter how much I went back and back and back, I just could not listen to it. I couldn't hear it, I should say. But the text on the screen said, blind chicken beaks.
Blind chicken beaks?
His third call was audio-wise, clearly was blind man fly swatter, right? He swats the fly, open hand palm strikes. Makes sense, right?
Sure.
The text read, blind guy kills mosquito. His fourth call sounded like blind man snake bite.
Sure.
But the text read, blind snake climbs.
Okay.
I don't know. It makes no sense. Not funny. Whatever.
Sure.
His fifth call, when he tries to jump on Bruce while Bruce is falling, like do the double stomp.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
It sounded like Zatuichi said, blind man stretch toe.
Okay.
I'm actually surprised it wasn't camel toe, honestly.
Right. Right.
But the text said, blind fool massages.
Yeah.
And then when Bruce catches both of his feet and he's like surfing and surf music starts playing.
Yeah.
Did you see that part?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And then Bruce screams out Fist of Fury and bites his ankle. and he flies, right?
Yeah.
So that leads to Zatuichi's sixth call, which is probably my favorite style of all the styles that he did.
All right.
His audio sounded like blind dog's piss.
Yes.
But the text read blind dog pisses, right?
Okay.
So that's the one where he's rocking backwards with his hands on the ground, sticking his leg up, trying to kick Bruce. Remember that?
I do.
It's my favorite style. Blind dog pisses. The next time I'm in a fight, blind dog pisses. I'm going straight to number 6.
Right off the bat.
Yeah, right off the bat. I'm saying we're going from 0 to 6. I don't even know what happens after that, you know?
After that, you got to do the blind chicken beaks, I think.
That's true. Got to go circle back to the blind chicken beaks. Yeah. And finish off with the fool massages.
Love it.
That's Bob's Peep and Squeak at the corner of 12th and Vine.
Yes.
Tuesday is Bring Your Own Towel night.
Come to the Midnight Mop and Bucket review. After that, Bruce dumps Zatuichi near his sword, and the blind man brandishes it. Bruce produces his trusty nunchucks, and the weapons portion of the fight ensues. The dragon beats the blind man. Zatuichi leaves the area just like he said he would. He's got other places to be anyway. He doesn't need this shit.
I thought this fight was great.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought that they were good because they were serious at times, you know? And there was some really decent fighting here.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these people, like when you see the Skelezombies or the absolute treats we have coming up later on that I'm not going to spoil here.
Yes.
Those guys are kind of like your basic stuntman. Probably the most martial arts that they had was like the Cantonese opera, which is where a lot of these actors learned Kung Fu, which is, I think that's why you kind of see a flailing style in these people who aren't necessarily dedicated martial artists.
Yeah.
But here, the fighting was very tight and contained for the most part. I mean, granted, you know, yeah, they did the funny stuff, the blind dog pisses, that kind of thing. But some of the stuff that they were doing when they were going back and forth was really super tight. And I was glad that I got to see both prints, both with the text and without, because without the text, you can actually just concentrate on what they're doing. And some of the fight choreography in this was really great. I mean, I think Bruce Leong was a co-choreographer on this movie, I believe.
Yeah.
And that's one thing about this movie. Some of the fight sequences are really good.
They are.
Really, really impressive.
This fight and the last fight of the movie, those are both there's some really great fighting in both of those.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Then we're back at the Triad layer, and the Godfather is kicked back, living the life with his people and the Skelezombies. The Godfather says Bruce easily dispatched the old blind man. How they heard that, who knows? The Exorcist says that he warned them that Bruce is dangerous. Bond says Bruce is no match for a gun. He'll take care of him. But Clint speaks up and says that he's fought him too many times to pull out now. Pull out? Nice. The Exorcist finally decides that Emmanuelle should do it, and she says that she will go and seduce Bruce.
It's funny how all these tough guys are just like, we can't beat him, he's too dangerous. No, he's not. Yes, he is. Emmanuelle, you're a woman, go do it.
Right.
Take care of this for
Go
us.
screw the guy so we can, beat him while he's down. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And now, intermission. Refreshment time.
2 minutes until showtime.
You see, the wife and I are swingers. And when we have a key party, we always buy Schlené. Nothing gets things lubed up like putting on side one of Santana's Abraxas and cracking open some Schlené. It goes perfect with our tuna pineapple surprise and Vienna sausage on a stick. Schlené beer. It lowers the inhibitions and brings about the sexual revolution.
1 minute until showtime.
Coming soon to this drive-in theater.
Roper, Williams, and Lee, the Deadly Three, penetrate the secret chambers of an evil island empire.
What do you know about Han? He lives like a king on that island, totally self-sufficient.
A fortress without walls, protected by an invincible army that needs no ordinary weapons. This is Enter the Dragon, the first martial arts film produced by a major Hollywood studio. John Saxon is Roper. He was in it for the money. U.S. karate champion Jim Kelly as Williams. He was there because he had no choice. Black Belt Hall of Fame undisputed martial arts champion and international film star Bruce Lee. His job was to get them out alive.
I'm hoping you'll join us, represent us in the United States. You want me to join this?
Roper, Williams, and Lee. Just when they think they've broken the secret of the island, they find there is no escape from the inscrutable Han. Warner Brothers presents Enter the Dragon, where the world's greatest martial arts athletes meet the ultimate challenge with the most ancient and deadly of weapons, the human body. Enter the Dragon from Warner Brothers. And now, on with the show.
Back at the palace, the king is finally ready to shine his scepter. He's playing some Marco Polo in the pool with the queen and one of his concubines. I didn't write this script. He catches the queen and she says her luck finally ran out.
I love that line. She's like, haha, my luck finally ran out. And she's thinking, damn it. Damn it. Why did I pull one of those concubines in front of me?
Yeah.
This movie is so... Okay, I was going to say this movie is so weird, but I didn't want to see the look on your face. I'm sick of this shit. Just stand there nodding like, yeah, continue.
Sure is. Yeah.
But one of the strange things about this movie is that I can never tell where it comes down on women. You know, I kind of feel like it's the Madonna or the horror thing with the women in this movie. Mm-hmm. But he talks in this scene about them honoring and obeying him. Mm-hmm. And then she says something about him living out his second childhood. And nobody wants him anymore, or something like that, the queen does. They give women zingers like that on men from time to time. But then they also treat women like shit in this movie for the most part. Yeah. You know? And I know the line comes in now, it was a different time, but fuck that, right? Like if you're gonna like put in this little bit of women getting jabs at these men, go all the way. I mean, you're perfectly willing to go all the way in every other respect in this movie, right? So give me a woman that kicks the king in the balls when she doesn't want to have sex with him, you know, or something. Right. I mean, you know, it's just a very strange kind of gender thing going on here.
It really is.
And a strange class thing. We can talk about that later on, but I think maybe because the movie's just so batshit that it's kind of like, well, we're just throwing shit against the wall. We don't really know.
They're definitely doing that.
You son of a bitch.
Meanwhile, Bruce and Emmanuel are drinking champagne on his circular bed in Emmanuel's apartment. Maybe?
Possibly.
Bruce is in his casual red tank top outfit now. Emmanuel wants to dance, so they get up and waltz.
I was expecting something hotter, I gotta say.
We're not to Lambada area yet, but, you know, at least there could be a little bumping and grinding there, right?
But give me a little, like, Gilded Cage action, or maybe some mashed potato or something, but...
They fall back on the bed and laugh like the waltz is the funniest thing since Don Rickles. Those pervs, The Godfather, Bond, Clint, and The Exorcist watch from behind a curtain of hanging beads. The Godfather in particular looks like he might be feeling his meatballs as Emmanuel kisses Bruce and it starts to head south to say hello to the little dragon. Or the big dragon. I mean, it's all rumors at this point. But then Bruce notices the men and throws Emmanuel away. She throws a tantrum on the bed as Bruce goes into another room to talk to these evil preverts. And in the lounge, the Godfather talks to Bruce.
You're a pretty famous fighter. How you feeling? The same as always. Then tell me, are all of your men here with you now?
That's right. Please try to understand. We ran things when we were back on Earth. We used to be big shots. We don't like playing second fiddle here.
Oh, so what's on your mind?
Let me speak frankly. If you throw in your cards with us, you will be much better off.
Nonsense. Look, I don't need you guys at all. See, I'm wasting my time. I'm gonna be going.
Bruce gets up to leave, and Clint and Bond pull their guns to stop him. But the Godfather waves him off because simply shooting him would end the movie unhappily here, apparently. So Bruce exits.
Okay. So my big question here in this scene... I have a lot of questions in these scenes.
Do you?
Yeah.
Tell.
My question in this scene is, when Bruce went to meet Emmanuel at her place, where did he think he was going? Did he just kind of walk through the lounge on the way to her quarters and see those guys who tried to kill him with those Skella zombies earlier in the restaurant and be like, no big deal. I'm just going to see Emmanuel. We're just friends. I mean, yeah, she's a nymphomaniac. What the fuck? Like, we're just friends. Bedroom door staying open, basically. Who uses beads for a door? Like...
He probably just walked by him and tipped his cap like, hello, gentlemen.
Yeah. Now serving number 7. I just, okay, whatever.
Yeah, yep. Later, the Queen and
Man,
the...
shut up. Just shut up.
Later, the Queen and the concubine are sneaking around at Bruce's place. Bruce is talking to one of the doctor's nurses, Sue Lin, in his apartment. They talk about how they are really good friends, but you can tell there's some attraction there, at least from her side of it. Sue leaves Bruce and heads downstairs with a tea tray. At the bottom of the stairs, the royal women nab her and fight over who is going to change into her. See, they both want a shot at Bruce's little dragon too, so they're ready to go all mystical to do it. The plan is that one of them will physically change into Sue, get Bruce to drink a love potion, and then seduce him into a menage a trois, son. They play a quick round of paper, rock, scissors to see who will transform into Sue.
Of course they do.
Because that's what you do when you're royal. You play paper, rock, scissors to see who's going to seduce Bruce Lee.
Yeah, there's no rank. Yeah, it's exactly right.
The Queen wins, so she does a twirl and morphs into Sue. Queen Sue then dumps a little potion into a cup of tea. The concubine warns her not to wear Bruce out too quickly. But the Queen blows her off, saying that the potion stiffens a man's resolve. Stiffens. If a woman takes it, though, bad shit happens. More on that later.
I want to say something really fast about Bruce's apartment. How many pictures of yourself do you have up in your house?
All of my pictures are family pictures. It's not just pictures of myself, but yeah, he's got his movie posters up. And
I mean, I guess if I were a movie star, I would have my movie posters up. But some of them are not movie posters necessarily. They're just shots from his movies.
Right. But if I'm a famous actor and I've won awards, or, maybe I have a room devoted to like a trophy room. I don't have just pictures of myself hanging next to my bed.
Right. He has him hanging like right on the wall by his bed.
Right.
I don't know, man. I just don't know. I question Bruce, you know. We're going to find out at the end of this that he's a selfish son of a bitch. I'm just going to say that right up front.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. Please continue.
Okay. Queen Sue goes up to Bruce's apartment. She flirts with him, but Bruce cannot understand why. She tries to give him the tea, but he refuses. He asks her who she is 2 or 3 times until she finally turns back into her true form. The concubine comes up too, and once the Queen starts begging Bruce to beat her, With his weapon, the concubine starts tussling with the queen. They both end up drinking a little of the potion meant for Bruce. Well, they forced each other to drink it, basically. It's not like they offered it up. But
yeah, right.
Back at the palace, we see what happens to women who drink the potion. The concubine's face is smeared with tan brown sludge, while half of the queen's face has what looks to be black shoe polish with polka dots. They really broke the bank on the makeup budget, didn't they?
Well, you saw the horse and bull mass up front. What did you expect?
It's true. It's true. They try to get the king to arrest Bruce and let them punish him, but he casts them out because they're no longer beautiful. And, you know, the king is such an incredible-looking virile man that he can't have ugly women near him.
I know. What an asshole.
Yeah.
It's rich how he tells them that they should be satisfied with what they have.
Yeah.
And again, I can't suss out what the filmmakers are trying to get out with these women.
Right.
You know.
I doubt they were going in any general direction at all.
Yeah.
Let's get him naked, give him some funny lines, but ultimately make them bow down to the king.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And get thrown away for being quote unquote ugly.
Yeah.
By a man who basically looks like the acid of a wild ox.
The exorcist and Emmanuel enter the chamber as the king and queen are arguing. The king loses his shit when he sees Emmanuel. The exorcist introduces her as the Hollywood star Emmanuel.
Even though up until that time, not a single one of her movies had been made in Hollywood. Not one. Okay, let's continue.
The king vows that he'll make Emmanuel his queen, and the exorcist looks on with an evil grin. Like, seriously evil. Like he should have a neon sign on his forehead that says, "I'm thinking about killing you." He might as well have went. God. Elsewhere, Bruce's gymnasium is trashed. It's that damn triad again. Bruce is going to teach those bastards a lesson. Turns out lesson 1 is going to take place in our favorite desert canyon. Dracula saunters into the canyon with a scourge of skelezombies. Scored?
It's because it's skelezombies, like a horde of zombies. Scored of skelezombies.
Okay.
Jesus Christ, just keep going.
A scored.
I'm so sick of this. I'm not going to look at you until you keep reading. I'll sit here all night. Damn it, he got me with a wave again. Shit.
Bruce rappels down the side of a cliff into the canyon. He's dressed as Kato now, because why not?
Yeah, sure.
He beats the piss out of skelezombies. Dracula watches, seemingly surprised that he can survive in broad daylight, even though he's a creature of the night. Nope, didn't catch fire, people. He's just fine. The skelezombies start doing their ring around the rosy bullshit. They end up hoisting him up over their heads, then pinning him on the ground with his legs spread open. Dracula approaches and seems like he's after something besides blood. He is going low, folks. He gets close and Bruce gives a fighting yell and a third leg shoots out of Bruce's crotch and kicks Dracula right in the fucking face.
Oh my God. Oh man. He's got an arsenal of weapons in his crotch, dude.
His dick is so big it has a shoe. That's man.
And an extra pant leg. And a pant leg and a sock.
They are fascinated with this man's dick in this movie.
I love it.
I
love it.
This movie basically revolves around his dick.
You got to give it to these bastards, though. This is an angle on the Bruce Lee myth that I never would have thought of.
No, never would have.
And then I hate to keep bringing it up, but Popeye. I mean, hell, man.
Oh,
this is it. This is it. This is the movie we've always wanted.
We have. Then Bruce kicks away the zombies with his regular 2 feet and does a kip up. He goes to Dracula, who seems to be out or dead. Yeah, who knows? He reaches into the vampire's pocket and pulls out a document. Dracula reaches up and scratches Bruce's face, but the dragon pounds him one more time and kills him to end the scene. So Dracula dies from a punch, Not a stake through the heart or the sun burning him, down to ash. None of that. He just gets punched by Bruce Lee and he's dead. That's how powerful Bruce is.
In the other print that I saw where they were fond of using text, in this scene, when he kicks Dracula in the face, there's that freeze frame. It had Chinese, and under it in English it said, "The third leg of Bruce."
The third leg of Bruce.
So, here's the thing now. If I'm ever in another fight, I start off with Blind Dog Pisses.
Yes.
And then I go to the third leg of Bruce. And then I'll circle back to Blind Chicken Beaks. That's going to be the order.
I think that's a good plan.
I think I'm going to start writing my own Kung Fu book tonight once we're done talking about this.
You could call it The Dragon Lives Again Part 2. The Dragon Lives Again. In the royal bedchamber, the king and Emmanuel are getting it on. Good Lord. Emmanuel gets on top and takes control. The king implores her to slow down and be gentle over and over, but she keeps ramping up the RPMs. Don't believe us? Well, the royal accountant is there too, keeping score with an abacus at first, and then a digital calculator when things get hotter and faster. The accountant warns the king to slow down or he'll burst something. The king tells him to kick rocks. This is Hollywood star Emmanuel, after all. This is a very lengthy scene, and the loud moaning and groaning and sex noises are straight out of porn. Like, this is some, this is a, oh, wow, this scene.
It goes on so long that it gets genuinely uncomfortable.
It does, yeah.
I mean, my chest got a little tight for the king of the underworld. I'm thinking she's gonna burst this fool's blood vessels here.
Oh yeah, yep.
She's working hard.
The accountant leaves and Bruce enters. I guess nobody has ever heard of knocking in the underworld, but Cato just rocks right into the king's bedroom while in flagrante dirty sexto and realizes the plot. Emmanuel is trying to blow out the old man's heart. Nevertheless, Bruce watches for a moment or two. Even a baby-faced superhero's got to get his jollies wherever he can, right?
Absolutely.
Then to break up the relations, Bruce throws a piece of paper onto the double-backed beast. Later, the king reads the paper and sees that the exorcist and Emmanuel, and according to the king, Emmanuel's genitalia, were plotting to kill him and take the throne. Oh, boy. The monarch yells to his assistant that the exorcist is no longer allowed in the palace. Then he makes Bruce his new captain of his bodyguard.
Okay. So, hang on a second. So you're telling me that Dracula was just carrying a written copy of the Triad's plans in his jacket pocket. Like Dracula, the one vampire in the history of film that could not be killed by sunlight, but was bested by a kick from a dick leg and a hammer fist to the chest. That is the guy that you're trusting with the plans.
They thought Dracula was a sure thing, man. They put all of their money on that horse.
It's no wonder this plot's going so well.
Right.
I mean, obviously the best minds are working on it.
Yeah. A small scourge of skeleton zombies burst into the Triad Lounge and screamed that Bruce has taken all the money that they were lucky to escape with their lives. The exorcist claims that Bruce has done us in the eye again. Before we smash cut to Wayne Crawford would be so proud.
Yeah, we love you, Wayne.
Before we smash cut to Bond walking down the city street with a big briefcase. Bruce stops him at the bridge and says that he thinks Bond's got stolen money in that case, so they fight. Whatever reason you can have to start a fight, I guess. Bruce kills Bond, who clutches 2 huge fistfuls of money as he breathes his last breath. In the lounge, the Godfather is worried. If they can't trust Bond to get Bruce, what in the hell are they going to do? Get it? What in the hell? Damn it. The Exorcist wants to go nuclear and bum rush the king and take over the throne and use the royal army to kick Bruce's ass. Clint finally steps up and says he'll go out and challenge Bruce alone. And we're back in our favorite canyon. Yeah. It's like the canyon is just a step away. No matter where you're at. You're indoors, you take a step to the left, there's the canyon. Clint and Bruce have a quick spaghetti western standoff. Clint tries to shoot Bruce, but it's clear that he lost his aim since dying and coming to hell. He can't hit Bruce when the dragon is within 3 feet of him. Bruce kicks the gun away and they go hand to hand. As bad of a shot as Clint is, he's even worse with his hands. Bruce kills him easily after toying with him a bit. Back in town, the citizens are having a party. They're drinking and dancing to Dixieland music. After the dance is over, Kane tells Bruce how great he is for killing all those bastards. So now we know that in addition to not being a great fighter, Kane cannot count. Everybody applauds anyway, and Sue says that they can all live a peaceful life now because of Bruce. Have any of these people ever actually met the Godfather and the Exorcist? Back at the Triad layer, the Exorcist is laying Clint to rest as the Godfather talks about Clint's last request.
It was his last wish that his body be sent to Mexico.
Hey, now they're celebrating this party. We'll go kill the king.
Right, let's go.
I love how the Godfather says that Clint's last request is to be sent back to Mexico.
Yeah.
What are the shipping rates from the Underworld back to Mexico?
Yeah.
Like, how do you work that out? And then the Exorcist is like, oh, they're all partying. We should just go kill the king now. And the Godfather's like, that's a great fucking idea, man.
Yeah.
Let's just do that. And then one gong smash later, the Godfather's bursting through the king's door like Kramer on Seinfeld. He's just like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yeah. After the Godfather's big entrance, he and the Exorcist stroll into the king's main chamber. The king sees them and starts banging a small gong, calling for his guards. The king is surprised that the Exorcist has teamed up with the Godfather to depose him. You just found out that the Exorcist had Emmanuel try to fuck you to death, bud. So...
Yeah, maybe get your dirty sex accountant in here to help you do the fucking math. You know?
The Exorcist says he's doing the king a favor. He's too old to be king. The Godfather says that he only plays around with the girls. He says that the king is making life hell for all of them. He's a has-been and has no more right to be king.
Nobody's making life hell for you. That's your address now.
Right.
You know?
He's basically making hell worse for the people.
Well, maybe this is purgatory. I don't know. Everybody calls it hell. Every time somebody talks about this movie, they say Bruce Lee has to fight his way out of hell.
Yeah.
I guess that sounds better than Bruce Lee has to fight his way out of purgatory. Doesn't quite fit on the poster.
The king sicks his guards on the Godfather and the Exorcist, and the two baddies whoop some real ass for the first time in the movie. Lots of slapstick here, with the guards dying like this is Crouching Curly Hidden Larry. Crouching Curly, Hidden Larry.
I just want to make you say shit.
Next week we go back to me writing the scripts again, okay, pal? Oh, it's going to get worse too, folks. It's going to get so much worse.
Say it one more time.
Crouching Curly, Hidden Larry.
Oh man, I'm becoming dehydrated. I'm just crying so much.
The Godfather and the Exorcist finally corner the king.
It's such an absurd sentence.
The sniveling monarch is desperate, so he runs to his big pillar and shakes it. The whole underworld. He's going to shake his big pillar, folks. The whole underworld quakes. The king would rather destroy his domain than lose his power. In town, the debris is falling everywhere and people are dying. Bruce carries Sue over to the doctor, who is injured. The quaking continues until the Godfather and the Exorcist manage to kick the king away from the pillar. But weirdly, they don't kill him. Instead, they find themselves in our favorite desert canyon. And oddly enough, so does Bruce. He asks where the king is and says the two men's stupidity has caused the destruction of the underworld. The Godfather says that Bruce has upset their records and he's going to kill the dragon. Bruce fights both men. Bruce gets the upper hand and kills the exorcist.
I do like how the end of The Exorcist here is shot almost like it was in The Big Boss, like with the POV scenes from Bruce's point of view, the exorcist's point of view. Like, I thought that was really cool, especially since Bruce is back in his Big Boss costume at this point. I thought that was kind of a nice touch.
Yeah.
There are nice little homages to him and his parts throughout the years. Like, when he comes down the canyon as Kato, he rappels down as Kato, which he and the Green Hornet in the TV series would climb up the side of the building like Batman and Robin used to, you know? So little stuff like that's kind of cool.
The Godfather removes his top to reveal that he is ripped to shreds as he and Bruce square off one-on-one.
His physique is probably actually closer to the real Bruce Lee's than Bruce Long says.
I think he looks more like Bruce Lee than Long does, period.
Yeah.
Like, when we first see him and he's wearing the big glasses sitting in the lounge, I wonder why they didn't cast him. And Long, to me, looks more like a young Bolo Young from Bloodsport than Bruce Lee.
Yeah, or Enter the Dragon. Bolo Young from Enter the Dragon.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with that completely. And we didn't really talk about this early on, but one of the things that I thought was interesting when they first introduced Bruce to kind of explain why Bruce Leong looks different from the real Bruce Lee. The Queen and the Concubine, when they're hiding in the chamber at the beginning, the Queen talks about how when people die, their body changes and their face changes, and so that's why he doesn't look like the Bruce Lee people know. I thought that was kind of an interesting way to paper over that, you know.
And everybody else.
I mean, yeah.
What the hell happened to Clint Eastwood? Oh, he died. He's in hell now. He looks totally different.
Yeah, he looks... Yeah. He's also changed his diet, too, so... He eats nothing but crickets now. It's very strange.
Bruce and the Godfather tangle in a back-and-forth fight until the Godfather pins the dragon against a boulder and tries to strangle him. Bruce bites the Godfather's arm, and the Godfather retreats to a hiding spot. When Bruce passes, the Godfather jumps on him, and they both tumble to the ground. Bruce throws sand in the Godfather's eyes, and the mano a mano is back on. Finally, the Godfather charges, and Bruce digs fingers from both hands into spots on the Godfather's torso and yells,
"Fingers of fury!"
And the Godfather is presumably dead. On a village street, the king still looks like he's got a case of the limber tail. He approaches a man named Zheng Kui and asks for help.
Zheng Kui, the Godfather and the Exorcist are after me. Also, Bruce Lee is gunning for me, and he's bad news. I've got no more places to hide. I tell you, things are looking pretty hot for me right now.
I have just retired. I don't know what's going on.
But you're going to have to help me. I don't want to be the king no more. I just want to stay alive, that is all.
If you want me to help you out, then you'll have to do as I tell you.
Anything that you say, it's a deal.
All right. Attention! Attention, demons!
Zheng summons a group of toilet paper mummy demons. What do you call a group of those?
A roll. It's called a roll of toilet mummy demons.
This is just not fair, man. It's just... I've got to call these things toilet mummy demons from here on out, don't I? Oh, my God.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, all 12 fans of ours. It's not fair to either one of us, really. Zheng also transforms his own attire from the peasant's clothes he's wearing into the bailiff's uniform we saw at the beginning of the movie. Now they're ready to take on Bruce. Bruce is wandering our favorite canyon and yelling for the king. His yells echo off the canyon walls. Both parties find each other, and the toilet mummy demons hop up and disappear, then reappear around Bruce. Zheng and the king strut over to Bruce.
You're the captain of my bodyguard. What are you doing so far from the palace?
I don't want to work for you no more. Now speak up. Why do you have to resort to such dirty tricks to keep the throne? Killing all these people in these earthquakes?
What's that? That's official business. Royal policy doesn't concern you.
You know, once I respected you, but now I realize you're just a cruel old man. And you'll not get away with this.
Zhang leads into the king.
Oh, this is the punk you mentioned?
Zhang steps up to Bruce.
Goddamn bastard! You're annoying my king. And now that I'm here to protect him, I'm gonna boot you in the arse. You're gonna get yours, punk!
Cut out the bullshit. This has got to stop. We must have justice.
You ignorant heap of buffalo dung! I'll give you a lesson you won't forget. All right, Demon Dozen! Get this bastard for keeps!
Bruce is giving a 2-ply ass kick into this roll of toilet mummy demons until Zhang yells for them to go berserk. Then they start making these crazy noises and doing the ring around the rosy group hug like shit. Kind of like the skeleton zombies. But Bruce can't seem to kill any of them, huh?
Skelezombies.
Kind of like the Skelezombies. But Bruce can't seem to kill any of them. Then Kane, One Arm, and Popeye come over the ridge and join the fray. Kane is swinging nunchucks and doing a slapstick routine with a couple of toilet mummy demons. Elsewhere, Popeye is on one toilet mummy demon's shoulders and is playing its head like a conga drum while he kicks 2 more. The toilet mummy demon falls backwards and Popeye hits the ground. He's getting stomped by these Charmin heaps.
I love Popeye when he's playing the drum on top. He's like, yay, 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 yay.
All right, we're changing it up. Kane is still cracking TMDs with his nunchucks. Then he throws them to Bruce, and the dragon gets some shots in. Meanwhile, One Arm is kicking and slicing TMDs like a Cuisinart. Popeye is still pinned to the ground by this roll of TMDs. He reaches and reaches until he grabs his can of spinach and downs it. Then the Popeye theme plays and he bursts to his feet.
Damn right.
They use the real theme. He does all the slapstick shit, pushing one TMD into a row of others and dominoing them, swinging a couple of TMDs around and smashing them into other TMDs. And he does one big wind-up punch to knock out a TMD that, when it goes flying, is clearly a dummy. Well, this does it for Zhang. He draws his sword and charges at Bruce. They fight sword to chuck. The king tries to hide behind a dead tree that has been painted silver for some reason. Where should I hide? Oh, behind the silver tree. No one will find me there.
That was never there before.
That is not a focal point of this canyon at all.
No.
Everything's brown and this tree is silver. Who's going to look at that? Christ. Bruce finally kills Zhang, and he and his 3 cohorts approach the king. Suddenly, the remaining citizens are all there too. They're ready to kill the king, but he pleads for his life and says he'll do anything. Bruce can even become king if he wants. But Bruce doesn't give a shit about being king. He wants to go back to Earth. The king agrees, but only Bruce can go back. If he let everybody go back, the Earth would be even crazier than it already is. Plus, if he did that, he would have no subjects left. And what is a king without subjects? Bruce agrees.
What?
But makes the king promise to be good to his subjects once the dragon is left, because that always works. Then Bruce says goodbye to his friends, Wizard of Oz style, before asking the king which way to Earth. The king twirls his hand and points to the heavens, and we get a shot of a dummy flying high through the canyon. The citizens all wave goodbye, and that is the end of this incredible tale. I can't believe this movie was made by adults. Jesus H.
When I saw this movie, I thought this is what would happen if you asked a very, very, very advanced 7-year-old to tell you a story off the top of their head.
Bruce Lee, and he was fighting the Exorcist and the Godfather and Clint Eastwood and Dracula.
But he had help from Popeye.
Yeah, and the guy from Kung Fu. Oh my God. Oh, man. Whew.
I just can't believe how much of a selfish prick Bruce is at the end.
Yeah.
He's like, instead of fight for everybody to be released, he's just like, well, tough luck, bitches. Be good to Burger King. See you around. You know? This is like, what the hell, man?
The king's so desperate to keep his kingdom. It's like, nope, only you can go. Well, how about a snappy goddamn neck? Okay, you can take him. It probably would have been that easy, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. He's like, all right, you be good to them once I leave. And the king's like, oh, yes, sir, yes, sir. And then once Bruce is gone, he's like, all right, get back to work, and I'm going to need 5 concubines. You just pick amongst yourselves.
Remember the pillar, bitches. You remember that pillar. I'll shake that pillar, son. I'll do it.
Every night before I go to bed, I use my shake weight just in case I have to use that fucking pillar, man.
Oh, boy.
Well, I want to know. So, what'd you think?
It was funny. It was funny. Yeah, it was really funny. I do enjoy stupid movies like this. I really do.
Yeah.
I just couldn't believe what I was watching half the time. You know?
I know.
I never thought I'd see Bruce Lee and Popeye fighting off the enemies, you know?
It's still, I still have to pinch myself. I can't believe we get to see it. It's so awesome. Two of my childhood heroes fighting side by side.
That's right. I mean, one eats a spinach, the other has a huge dick. I wonder if Popeye gets a huge dick when he eats a spinach. His forearms, they jack up when he does it, so, you know.
Yeah, well, in this movie, though, his forearms aren't big, so maybe he pushed that
down into the trouser snake.
Yeah. Although, along that line, one thing I like about this movie is that it kind of does to Western pop culture what we tend to do to Eastern culture in our country.
Yeah.
Because for us, it's like, oh, it's just Asia. And it's like, well, no, it's not Asia. It's all these different countries with all these different customs and cultures. Some overlap, but they're very distinct cultures.
Yeah.
And they kind of treat us that way. They're like, Emmanuel, Hollywood star. Well, no, she's not. Who gives a shit? Let's throw in The Godfather. He doesn't look like that. He's an older man and he's fat. Who gives a shit?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
What about Popeye? Let's just do Popeye. You know, like, who gives a shit? You know what I mean?
And make him look closer to anyone else in the movie. Make him look closer to his source material.
Yeah. Yeah. He's the only one that's really close, you know?
Right.
But yeah, I do like that aspect of it. It's kind of like giving Western society a taste of its own medicine. Like, here's a big fucking smoothie of all your stupid shit and just spit it right in your eye, you know? So I kind of dig that. So, remake of Rembrandt, what are we thinking here? How we feeling?
No.
I mean, aside from the fact that it would be impossible.
Oh, yeah.
Now.
Yeah.
Absolutely impossible to make it.
It'd have to be like Warner Brothers making something like this just so they could use all of their properties like Harry Potter and Batman and kind of like they do with the Lego movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This movie was it was a fun adventure. I really enjoyed it.
It was a departure from what we normally do. Yes, yeah.
I'm actually surprised it didn't win the Golden Globe. I gotta say,
what could it win? What kind of award would they give to this movie?
What I'm saying is, if there had been a slapstick category, they could have won it.
Sure.
Or worst makeup.
Yeah.
You know, like,
or worst script.
You know, it would have won, though. It would have won Best Canyon. I'll tell you that.
Oh, absolutely. That's a good canyon. Big rocky hills in it. Yeah.
Yeah. I love this movie. I actually want to go watch it again now.
Well, I think you should. Let me know how you liked it fourth time around, huh?
Maybe I'll call you up and do a play-by-play commentary for it. I don't know.
Oh, there's this hard on. Well, I think a Rembrandt's a no for me. So, or a remake is a no for me, I should say. Good Lord. God, please don't remake it. It's a Rembrandt. It's a bootleg Rembrandt.
It's a shoe polish with polka dots, Rembrandt.
That's right. Thank you for joining us at the All Night Drive-In Picture Show. We hope you enjoyed our feature this evening. You can follow us on social media at the All Night Drive-In Picture Show page on Facebook or at All Night Drive-In on Twitter and Instagram. If you have questions, comments, or movie requests, you can send them to our email address at allnightdriveинpictureshow@gmail.com. Join us next week for another fantastic feature, and until then, we appreciate your patronage. Don't forget to hang up your speaker, and please drive carefully on your way out.
The All Night Drive-In Picture Show is edited and produced by Markham Harvey. Our theme song is composed and performed by Lee Rosevere and edited by The Night Watch. Our head ticket taker is Stubbs Jorgensen. Our snack bar manager is Lucy Slewfoot. Our drive-in manager is the one and only George Jaike. I'm your announcer, Lane Hewitt. This has been a Clown Business Coalition production. Good night, everyone.